19 hours GMT. Hello and welcome to News 360. We are live from the News Hub here in Accra. I am Isa Moni.
And I'm Natalie Ford to look at the top stories this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by Deluxe Paint, Heaven Black Mosquito Coil and Spray,
Premier Health Insurance.
Industrial accident claims one life at a subsidiary of Melcom Group of Companies in Accra.
Electoral Commission staff who petitioned the President to remove Charlotte Osei as EC boss again petitioned the Office of Special Prosecutor to deal with dismissed EC boss for causing financial loss to the state.
Also ahead this evening, Education Ministry urges University Teachers Association of Ghana UTAG to rescind on its decision to go on strike over payment of book and research allowance.
And coming up in business, Ghana Free Zones Authority to delist non-performing companies registered under the Free Zones Enclave.
And on the foreign front, Trump administration expects economic sanctions it is reimposing on Iran this week to further cripple the Iranian economy.
We have all the details, including sports and entertainment, coming up this hour. Remember, we're also live on Channel 279 on DSTV. Now to the details. The two Electoral Commission staff who petitioned the President to remove Charlotte Osei as EC boss have filed a petition at the Office of Special Prosecutor requesting that the dismissed EC boss be prosecuted for causing financial loss to the state. Forsen Ampofo and Gosway Dajo in their petition cited the Air Vote STL removal and Kazar contracts under Charlotte Osei's tenure as suspicious deals.
The two workers of the commission also requested that criminal investigations be instituted against the former EC chairperson. They also want the acquisition of a new head office for the commission to be investigated. President Akufo-Addo on June 28 removed Charlotte Osei and her two deputies, Amadou Sule and Georgina Opoku-Amankwa, from office upon the recommendation of a committee set up by the Chief Justice to investigate separate complaints brought by some Ghanaian citizens. Charlotte Osei was accused of various procurement breaches, whilst her deputies were also found guilty of the same offences as well as financial malfeasance. The staff of the EC first petitioned President Nana Akufo-Addo in July last year to remove Charlotte Osei from office over allegations of fraud and financial malfeasance as well as abuse of office. Some of the allegations involved the unilateral award of contracts by the former EC boss in the run-up to the 2016 general elections. She also responded by making allegations of corruption against her deputies, claiming she was only being harassed because she sought to introduce systems to curb mismanagement.
The Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority are demanding the resignation of the Energy Minister, Boakye Agyarko. At a news conference in Accra, the national chairman of the association, Cephas Duse, said, contrary to claims by the sector minister that Ghana will gain $405 million from a renegotiated power deal with Ameri Energy, the country would rather lose up to $472 million.
The Honourable Minister is incompetent, lacks integrity, or absolutely not on top of his job. We think that by the current deal, the Energy Minister has exhibited financial recklessness with intent to assist a foreign company milk the state. We therefore call on him to honorably resign immediately and save the government and this nation from further disgrace and embarrassment and time wasting. We plead with the President to sack him if he so honorably fails to resign.
The national chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the Volta River Authority, Cephas Duse, explained when all available options are considered, the renegotiated Ameri deal cost $995 million.
Ameri plant will have a utilization factor of less than 20% from 2019 to 2023. And from all the analysis, the option of what? Keeping the existing agreement appear to be the least cost. That one out.
He indicated the difference committed power generation projects estimated to provide 2,476.5 megawatts of power. Cephas Duse noted the Volta River Authority, VRA, is also committed to thermal projects that will provide 632 megawatts of power.
We have enough capacity. We have a lot of combined cycle plants coming on board. So by way of dispatch, merit dispatch order, this plant is just going to sit down there. Right, we are not going to use it. So why do we lock up ourselves into a new 15-year hold deal? It does not make sense.
You're on News 360, and issues concerning the controversial Ameri deal will not go away yet. The Energy Ministry spokesperson has reported government spokesman on governance and legal affairs, Herbert Krapa, to the police over alleged threats on his life. Nana Damwa made the complaints to the East Legon police on Monday. It is unclear what the threats are, but there is a seeming tussle between the energy minister and some government appointees over the new Ameri deal, which government has withdrawn from parliament. TV3 checks at the East Legon police have indicated a case of assault was filed by Nana Damwa Monday afternoon against Herbert Krapa. You're watching News 360, and we're making efforts to reach Nana Damwa and speak to him about the alleged threat from government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs, Herbert Krapa. We are not able to establish contact yet. As soon as we do that, we'll bring him on.
Certainly, Issa. But in some other news this evening, the Ministry of Education has urged the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, to rescind its decision to go on strike. The Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, disclosed that the sector ministry had already submitted documentation to the Finance Ministry for the payment of the 2017-2018 book and research allowance.
The University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, gave government up to July 31 to pay the 2017-2018 book and research allowance. Its leadership had served notice that members would withdraw their services by close of day on Tuesday, August 7, if their demands were not met. The Minister of State in charge of tertiary education, Professor Kwesi Yankah, explained that the ministry has already presented their documents to Finance Ministry for payment.
2 or 3 batches of these packages that they submitted, the first 2 packages have been worked on, and I told them last time they have been worked on at the Ministry of Finance. They are now moved to the Controller and Accountant Generals, where there have been a few set delays. We are asking them to just untie the red bands, as I said the last time, and wait for them to be processed at the Accountant General Department.
He therefore pleaded with the lecturers to rescind their decision.
This is, of course, not the first time ever. It happens every now and then when there are challenges here and there. So they should bear with us in the next, I think within the next few days, this will be ready.
But President of UTAG, University of Ghana branch, Dr. Harry Agbanu, disagreed.
The money is supposed to be for the academic year 2017-2018. And we have finished. We have done our job. We have borrowed monies to do all that we needed to do to help our students and to help our institutions. So what patience, what restraint.
He warned of a possible nationwide strike from August 7 if payment is not made.
Strikes do not help anybody. They don't help us as lecturers. They don't help our institutions. They don't help our students. They don't paint any good image of our institutions. We are in a very competitive world today. Students all over the country come to our universities in Ghana. And so these students come and lecturers are on strike over what? 500 cedis. research allowance, 500 cedis for a year, and $1,500 book allowance. Is it not a joke?
The two parties pledged their commitment towards the institution of the National Research Fund.
As announced, we're trying very hard to get in touch with Nana Damoah of the Ministry of Energy. We will soon get him and speak to him on News 360. Let's move on to other news tonight. And government has announced a 10% increase in salary for all public sector workers on the single spine pay policy. The implementation of the increment is expected to take effect from January 2019.
Government made announcements after 3 days of negotiations with organized labor. The new percentage increase is expected to take effect from January next year. Chief Executive Officer of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Dr. Edward Kwapong, is hopeful the percentage increase will cushion public sector workers.
The inflation figure for 2019, the rate of inflation in the country, in the economy, will be about 7%, a single-digit percentage figure. And so when you grant 10%, then you've made a provision for even a 3% top-up in real income of employees. Otherwise, inflation will erode that, and we don't want workers to be made worse off.
An 11% increase was granted public sector workers last year. Some workers who declined to speak on camera considered the 10% increase woefully inadequate. But CEO, who doubles as chairman of the Public Sector Joint Negotiation Committee, disagrees.
The trend of inflation in the country is beginning to decline. I think from 15.6 in 2016, it has moved to about 10, and the projection for 2019 is 7. So if it's declining, then you don't have to stay where you were last year. Otherwise, then you are adding a burden, a wage burden on the national economy.
He requested the unions not to agitate but dialogue with government.
There is some kind of social partnership amongst the key players. So we do not foresee a union saying that what we have negotiated with the involvement of their own reps is so woefully inadequate that they are going to go on strike or something. No, it shouldn't happen.
Both the public sector pay increase and the minimum wage for 2019 have been pegged at 10%.
You're watching News 360, and as advertised, we now have Nana Damoah on the line, and the issue is about what he says are threats he received from government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs, Herbert Krapah. So we are going to speak to Nana Damoah and find out exactly what message he received from Herbert Krapah. Nana Damoah, finally we have you. Good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Right, so what exactly is in the message that you received from Herbert Krapah?
Good evening to your viewers as well. May I state that around 1 o'clock this afternoon, I received a series of messages seeking to say that I should be careful and that I'm not going to receive this warning again. I have myself to blame if anything happens. And then I sought further. I said, what really is the problem? So he sent a message again and said, we are in the same party. We are in the same government. If I do not stop peddling the falsehood against Gabi, I would, if I do not stop peddling the falsehood against Gabi, there will be a showdown and I will not be warned again. So I sought clarification that really, what's the problem? And very unnerving, particularly within the time frame that all of these matters are happening. So I begged him, and I sent him a long series of messages, but then he stood his ground and still repeated that if I do not change my stance, we are going to have a showdown. So I reached out and made him aware that this is a very sensitive situation, particularly within times such as this. It's unnecessary, and perhaps I feel very threatened, and he needs to assure me that indeed nothing is going to happen to me. He refused all such approaches to him. So after a few consultations, I felt that it is not easy for me just to inform the police, as the law permits. That if I do, then I may have to later proceed, and I have, and waiting for the police to take the necessary action.
Nana Damoah, what do you suspect is the issue? Does it have anything to do with the Ameri deal?
I cannot say for a fact what the issue is, and at this point I would not want to engage in speculation. For me, I have no further interest in this matter except that the second, with all of what is happening, I just want to be sure that my personal security is guaranteed. That is all.
You said you are both members of the NPP. Is that correct?
We're both members of
the NPP. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So, in what way is Herbert connected to your job to issue you a warning or a threat?
As I have said, I have no interest in engaging in speculation or in dabbling in matters that I do not have facts to speak to. What I can say for a certain fact is that those messages and the imports that were coming from them were a bit threatening, and I pointed them out to him, seeking reassurance that indeed nothing was going to happen to my person. But since those reassurances have not come, as per the law and the dictates of it, I have gone ahead to report the matter to the police so that it can be dealt with and dealt adequately. If the police investigate and feel that indeed there is nothing there, I thank my God. If the police investigate and find out that there is a problem, perhaps it can be addressed amicably.
So, since lodging the complaint, do you know if the police have contacted Herbert or have they gotten back to you in any way?
No. All
right. So, Nana Damoah, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Nana Damoah is a communications expert and he works with the Ministry of Energy, and he has lodged a complaint at the East Legon police station claiming that government spokesperson on governance and legal affairs has threatened him.
Now, in some breaking news coming in this evening from the presidency, the Communications Directorate of the Jubilee House in Accra, signed by the Director of Communications, Eugene Ayen. It reads, President Akufo-Addo relieves Energy Minister Boakye Agyarko of his position. The President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has by letter dated August 6, 2018, relieved the Minister of Energy, Mr. Boakye Agyarko, of his position with immediate effect. The President has asked Mr. Boakye Agyarko to hand over his office to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. John Peter Amewu, who will act temporarily as Minister for Energy until a substantive appointment is made. It further writes, the President wishes Mr. Boakye Agyarko well in his future endeavors. So that's the breaking news coming in this evening from the Communications Directorate of the Jubilee House in Accra. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has relieved Minister for Energy, Boakye Agyarko, of his position. We're bringing you some more details on this breaking news as it happens. You can get some more on our website. It's 3news.com.
That was certainly a huge one, and we'll delve into it when the pieces fall into place. You're watching News 360 on TV3. On MTN Video Report, our citizen journalist, Nuri Philip Arislosori, highlights the army worm infestation at Bolgatanga in the Upper East region.
Though the Honorable Minister of Agriculture declared a total defeat of army worms some months ago, I am still worried that these destructive army worms has resurfaced in the Upper East region. This is a demonstration backyard garden for my father's study. But soon, this garden would no longer exist because the army worms have started eating everything. I believe that bigger farms are suffering still. Please, government must act, else there would be food crisis. For TV3 News, I am Nura Philip Akelesori, reporting from the central of Bolgatanga. Be a citizen, but not a spectator.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, the showmanship there from Nuri Akelesori.
He has a future in journalism.
Absolutely. So you can also send your video report to us. We'll be glad to show it.
Certainly. You're still live here on News 360. Let's take a look at how the weather will be faring this evening through till tomorrow morning. Scattered cases of thunderstorms and rain are expected over northern Ghana, mainly over the upper regions, while the middle sector will be partly cloudy with isolated cases of... And just to run you over some breaking news this evening, as we said earlier, communication coming in from the Communications Directorate of the Jubilee House in Accra, signed by Eugene Ahin. He's the Director of Communications. It says, President Akufo-Addo relieves Minister for Energy Boakye Agyarko of his position. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has by letter dated August 6, 2018, relieved the Minister for Energy, Mr. Boakye Agyarko, of his position with immediate effect. The President has asked Mr. Boakye Agyarko to hand over his office to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. John Peter Amewu, who will act temporarily as Minister for Energy until a substantive appointment is made. The President further wishes Mr. Boakye Agyarko well in his future endeavors. That's the breaking news coming in this evening. President Akufo-Addo has relieved the Minister of Energy, Boakye Agyarko, of his post, and Mr. John Peter Amewu is going to be filling in temporarily as Minister for Energy until a substantive appointment has been made. That's breaking news coming in this evening. Get some on it on our website. It's 3news.com. You're watching News 360. We've got the latest of news from the world of business coming up shortly. Stay with us.
We're back on News 360 here, and let's do one more story just before Nanekia Mensah Brampa takes you off on the business thrill. The headquarters of the Melcom Group of Companies came under mob attack after an industrial accident at Centuries Industries, a subsidiary of Melcom Group of Companies, and also the accident left a 90-year-old outsourced laborer dead. The accident prompted an attack by some persons believed to be family and friends of the deceased, while workers agitated outside the premises. Solis Osquati was at the scene and has come through with the following report.
Security was tight when the news team arrived at the scene. Speaking off camera, the Kaneshie District Police Commander, Superintendent Ernest Champong, said his team arrived at the scene just after 2 p.m. and after a mob which claimed to be members of the victim's family. He added some staff and police personnel were assaulted, while vehicles on the compound were vandalized. But the agitating workers were, however, easier to control. The gates of the company were locked, with management initially refusing to shed light on what had transpired earlier. However, the communications director for the Melcom Group of Companies, Godwin Avenogbo, spoke to the news team via phone.
There are certain things that we move in terms of material, equipment, and so on, and these are heavy sometimes, so they are placed on cranes that are moved, and these are moved on rails. The crane missed one rail, and then that was what happened. And all the staff ran away to safety. The person who was hit got badly injured, was rushed to Coco Clinic. The family was called immediately when the accident happened, and so they rushed and met the Century Industries Limited leadership.
And you're still watching News 360. A very good evening to you. Thanks for staying with us. It's time for business with me, Nanekia Mensah Brampa. Beginning with tonight, the Ghana Free Zones Authority intends to delist non-performing companies registered under the Free Zones Enclave. The Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Michael Ochiri-Befi, made this known at the launch of the Ghana Free Zones Area Investment Week celebration in Accra.
According to the Chief Executive Officer of the authority, Michael Ochiri-Befi, the board has decided to delist all inactive companies. 201 companies are currently registered under the enclave, of which 120 are functional.
We can only determine whether a free zone company is active or not by how many exports is able to do within a year. You cannot just decide not to do export and still be a free zones company. Some companies are just on paper like that. They have never done even one export before.
He said companies which fail to submit their quarterly returns will pay a $2,000 fine.
If for that matter, I can say that we are applying these sanctions strictly. Because over the years, the people will be owing us millions of dollars, and they'll come and we'll still process their things for them. Where can you find this? If the business is your business, can you run it like that?
The CEO hinted the authority would recommend the review of the Free Zones Act of 1995, which enabled the establishment of free zones to promote economic development, provide for the regulation of its activities and related purposes. The authority was instituted in August 1995.
Right, so we had that news coming in from the presidency of the Energy Minister, Boakye Agyarko, be relieved of his duty by the president and having another minister temporarily standing in there till we get a substantive one. But we're being joined on phone now by Migdad Mohammed, who is with the Institute of Energy Security. Hello, Migdad. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Nanetka, for having me.
Right. Now, Migdad, how did you receive the news of the presidency asking the energy minister to step down?
We had wind of it coming, and we weren't sure it was going to happen because we knew for a fact that the presidency was looking at the facts as it were, the details. Because earlier when we raised the issue, we were raising the issue because we believed that the president was not giving the full benefit of the full picture. Because given what we saw in the agreement, it was impossible, practically impossible for anyone who loves this country, who understands what he's about to sign, will see it and then hold it out for the first gentleman of the land to ask it to append his approval to it. So what we sought to do was not to actually push the minister out or allocate blame on any person's head. Our part as a civil society organization was to lay bare the facts of the matter to the Ghanaian people, that your taxpayers' money or your money is going to be used in such a deal, and we believe that you're going to lose about $800 million. So we only laid bare the issues and the implications of shedding light on the facts of the deal is that today the minister has lost his job. It doesn't end there because the deal is still hanging. We don't know the outcome.
Yeah, so that's the next question I'm asking you, Migdad. He's been asked to step down. Does it end the whole Ameri saga? What next should we look at?
It has not ended the whole Ameri saga. We have been observing the proceedings with very much cautious optimism because our opposition is against the deal. The deal has been withdrawn. We don't know as yet whether government intends to amend the tariffs in the deal and bring the same deal back. We don't know whether government intends to make the innovation of the agreement more competitive so more companies can bid and apply for innovation. We don't know whether government even intends to continue with the existing agreement at all. We will be looking at the proceedings and we can only assure government that so far as the laws of confidentiality permit, they will not be saddled alone with the responsibility of scrutinizing such agreements and deals. We will help them cross the T's and dot the I's as much as possible, in as much as value for money considerations are concerned.
Aside that, are you expecting to hear anything from the presidency regarding this whole deal? The energy minister has stepped down. The next move is coming. What happens to Ameri?
The discussion has been led by the Statesman newspaper, and the government has kept a certain silence on it, which is not acceptable at this very point in time. We expect government not to allow the editorial discussion of a newspaper owned by a player within government to decide the national discussion. For example, deciding for us whether the president was misled or not. We would want to hear the stance of government clearly on these issues. What is government saying? Simply throwing out the minister under the bus over this very important issue would not prevent us from asking the probing questions we need to ask. We want to know what becomes of the agreement. We want to know what government intends to do with the agreement and who were the committee who recommended to the minister that this was the agreement in the best interest of this country or not. And we're even trumpeting that it was a cost saving of $400 million, which we questioned and contested. So at this very point in time, all we can say is that simply relieving the minister of his duties doesn't end the discussion. We'll continue to probe, and we'll be standing on the walls of accountability and value for money to keep probing and asking the questions which we asked right from last week to this very moment.
Migdad, we are grateful for your time this evening. Migdad Mohammed is with the Institute of Energy Security, giving us his thoughts as well, talking about the presidency asking the Energy Minister, Boakye Agyarko, to step down. That is news just in, and I'm sure that you get more on our website, 3news.com, also in subsequent bulletins, news at 10. You would want to tune in to get more. But let's move away from issues on energy, and Unilever Ghana has awarded a young music talent with a cash prize and a recording deal through its close-up Break the Barrier Music Contest. Lycon, as he is referred to on stage, was one of the 6 finalists in the maiden edition of the contest.
The Break the Barrier campaign was rolled out on 6 university campuses and city locations. Each location hosted a music competition, and the winner having to battle it out in the grand contest in Accra. The contest, geared towards unveiling new talents, was to promote the new close-up Cool Breeze variant toothpaste. The new variant comes in a brand new flavor and is packed with more mint. Its antibacterial mouthwash formula gives you 12 hours of fresh breath. Head of Communications and Sustainability at Unilever, Henry Herbert Malm, shed more light on the campaign.
Music is a youth thing, and this whole Cool Breeze business is an opportunity for the youth to gain some confidence. So we're using the music, marrying music with the fact that we want people to break that barrier, show confidence in whatever they do. So using that as an opportunity to unearth talent, get young people out there. Actually, we want to produce one big young man to become a full-scale musician, someone from the underground to come up today, take the stage, perform, and get an opportunity of a lifetime.
Winner of the competition, Lycon, could not hide his joy.
I'm so grateful because we've been in this for a long time. It's like we are not getting the recognition, but this has brought us so far. I'm saluting them, Unilever, for this opportunity.
Close-up toothpaste by Unilever, debuted in 1967 as a clear red gel with a spicy cinnamon taste, is the original youth oral care brand in the oral care market globally. The unique brand identity was positioned as the toothpaste that gives people confidence in those very close-up and personal situations.
Right, so that's our wrap-up on business tonight with me, Nanikia Mensah. But there's more on 3news.com. Is I standing by with something from the presidency again.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has stressed the need for the African continent to continue to protect and deepen attachments of freedom to ensure the fundamental human rights and dignity of his people. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 27th African Human Rights Moot Court competition in Accra, the president insisted upholding of human rights will ensure the prosperity of all on the continent.
The African Human Rights Moot Court competition is the largest gathering of students, academics and judges across the continent to debate on the theme of human rights in Africa. 18 universities across the continent are participating in this year's competition, the second to be hosted by the University of Ghana. Students from law faculties in Africa have gathered to argue a hypothetical human rights case as if they were before the African Court of Human and People's Rights.
Our aspiration is that the moot should serve as a moment of reflection and growth in the idea of our collective Africanness. And it would provide an opportunity to forge stronger bonds between us to further strengthen our common African identity.
President Akufo-Addo urged the student to continue to champion and deepen attachment of freedom and the protection of human rights on the continent.
Those of us who are heirs and beneficiaries of that heroic struggle for freedom have a calling to ensure that respect for human rights is woven into the fabric of the body politic of our various states in our respective regions and on the continent in this 21st century. We therefore have a sacred task to ensure that the fight for the protection and respect for human rights remains a constant one. Eternal vigilance, it is said, is the price of liberty.
The 6-day competition seeks to prepare a new generation of lawyers to argue cases of alleged human rights violation before the African courts.
Watching News 360, we've got all the latest of news from the world of sports coming up shortly. Stay with us.
Hello there, good evening. It's time to settle for some entertainment news on News 360. Child disability advocate Christian Morgan of Talented Kids Season 8 fame says his love for high-life music is hugely influenced by Kofi Kinata and Bisa Kede. According to the Cape Coast-based music prodigy, inspiration from versatile singers transformed his life.
Christian Morgan was first seen on TV3 in 2015 performing Bisa Kede's music and was associated with the Brother Brother hitmaker. He was identified a year later by Spread Love Home and Abroad and appeared on TV3 Talented Kids Season 7 auditions in Accra. Performing hits from award-winning act Bisa Kede, Christian Morgan was disqualified. He, however, auditioned the following year in Takoradi, performing hits from Kofi Kinata. Christian Morgan has since been popularly known as Time No Day, owing to his consistency in performing songs from Kofi Kinata, the Fante rapper. The singer was at his usual best when he performed as a guest artist at a reality show for persons with disability in Kumasi. He gave the audience a feel of Bisa Kede's latest song, Apai. He again performed Single and Free from Kofi Kinata. It is tough for Christian Morgan to make a choice between the two artists.
I love Bisa Kede and Kinata. They are best for me. So Kinata and Bisa Kede, I love you so very much.
Christian Morgan has performed with Kinata in the past and looks forward to sharing a stage with Bisa Kede as well.
Christian truly is an inspiration. I mean, I saw this gentleman from auditions down to when the competition started and afterwards, and he makes me proud every time. Absolutely. Really, absolutely.
We'd love to see more from him.
Definitely. Speaking of more, there's more news on 3news.com. My name is Miriam, and I'll catch you tomorrow on 3FM 92.7 for the Urban Blend.
Thanks, Miriam. Grateful.
Right. So I'm sure we're going back to that breaking news.
Absolutely. Like we mentioned earlier, President Akufo-Addo has relieved Minister for Energy of his position. That's Boakye Agyarko. Now, the president has said that Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Ameru, will act temporarily as Minister for Energy until a substantive appointment has been made. So that's the news coming in this evening as Minister for Energy, Boakye Agyarko, has been relieved of his position by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. There's more on our website. It's 3news.com, and we'll bring you some more on news at 10, which will also simulcast on 3FM 92.7.
Well, and that's it for this edition of News 360. My name is Lisa Moni.
I'm Natalie Forth. Thanks so much for watching. Have a lovely